man. Here we go. Another one. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Hell, it might be the end of your day. I really don't know, man. That's the thing. I never know how to start this and like say good morning or anything like that because I got no idea when people are going to watch or listen to this thing, right?
Yeah, you also have no idea when it's going to come out because just kind of when we decided
at the mercy of the internet, right? There's not a whole lot that I can control here. It's not like this is our show or anything.
Well, a lot of times you put it out and then Apple won't put it out for another 10 hours.
Right.
Like, I can't control that.
We'll just see what happens, right? It's kind of like a crap roll of what's going to happen with our episode after we're done with it. Anyways, hey, I'm Ricky Raines, your host of the Bow Body Show with my co-host Alex Bryant. Alex, man, we got some fun stuff that we could do today. I thought that we've done a couple of mock drafts, one with Aaron Duncan of Unnecessary Bluntness, and then we had the terrific Edgar Salmingo Jr. on, and him and I kind of dove into one when you had to run back to your adult job. But so today, man, I'm excited because we've got an opportunity to do another one, and we've got some new movement with free agency, right? But we're going to bring on another guest, and the guest for today is a colleague of mine from Cat Crave that I've known now for about a year and a half or so, almost 2 years. One of the best dudes I know, a really smart dude when it comes to the draft, man. Like this is his forte, man. It's his wheelhouse. We had Ian Cummings on last week, and he was absolutely outstanding. I'm anticipating the same level of detail and perspective here from this next guest. So without any further ado, let's bring him on up. Jared Feinberg, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Jared?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's going to be a good Friday. The Atlanta Braves are kicking off their season opening day, so I had to represent the Atlanta Braves today.
That's right. But, what is your hopes for the season for them, man? You think that they're going to go the long way?
World Series. That's the expectation.
I love it.
At the very least, the NLCS pennant.
Okay.
And if they don't even get to that, then there's going to be problems. But the expectation should be World Series for the Atlanta Braves. And I know there are plenty of Panther fans that are Atlanta Braves fans just because Braves are the only team in the Southeast region representing the entire region, essentially, outside of maybe the Marlins down in South Beach. But
no one's choosing to be associated with Florida unless they have to, though, right?
right. Exactly.
That's the one that if like we get the big earthquake and they happen to shake off the entire United States, everyone's going to kind of just look the other way and be
Florida man winning the day.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. All right, so look, man, we're going to get into this pretty much right away because I want to spend some time that when we do this mock draft, and we'll use the Pro Football Network simulator again. Shout out to those guys over there; they've got a nice little setup. We're going to use that again, but I want to allow us to have some time to kind of go through these prospects while we're doing that. But first, I feel like we kind of got to set it up a little bit, right? Free agency has been pretty solid so far. Now, Scott Fitterer, when he was the GM, he got the laser eye treatment, right? We've been told that that's not something that we want to do anymore because that was almost like the curse, right? Like that's what sent it all downhill was the minute that you put them laser eyes on him. So the question has been, is Dan Morgan cooking this offseason, though, with the moves that he's made, with the trade of Brian Burns, with the trade for Deontay Johnson, with some of these acquisitions that we've got? What is your thoughts on that, man? Do you think that Dan Morgan has been cooking so far?
I want to be careful to say he's cooking because it's the Panthers' luck that a ton of moves backfire. That's just been like the history of the Panthers for the last 10, 15 years, even going back before the Cam Newton era. Yeah. But I will say this, Dan Morgan has done a great job with adding players. They don't have to be flashy. They don't have to be all pros. But these are good football players, quality starters, and contributors that can help this team improve over the next year and a half. They improved the offensive line. They improved their run game overall, defensively. I mean, comparing the run defense and the And the fits overall schematically,
right.
it's so much better.
It seems like they've got like a good marriage of like personnel to the scheme this time, right?
Absolutely.
And that was something that I think we were lacking last year. Last year, it seemed like they were just grabbing what they assumed was good talents without kind of thinking about how do they all play together as a team, right? Alex, what would you say, man? Is Dan Morgan worth the chef hat right now? Or do you think that's a little bit early? Is he a sous chef? Is he just kind of like on the line? What's the level that we're at here?
I like the moves that he's made, but these moves feel like they've been set up for a couple years now. Like I've been talking about this Cap for a while, and then how Cap. So it feels like these moves were already targeted, like already were going to be made. I don't know about the Clowney and the other pass rushers, but as far as the way the Cap was set up, we were gonna make a lot of moves this year. Either way, so I don't want to give a ton of credit to Morgan yet, but I do like what they're doing. I just don't know if it's all on Morgan.
And so here's like the kind of rundown here on the new additions. Now, I don't have like the Raheem Blackshear and Amir Smith-Marset. I don't have them on here because we had them on the roster last year. So this is just kind of like new faces that are being introduced to the team, right? But when I look at this, what does stand out is obviously, man, that emphasis, like you were just talking about on the, Jared, you were talking about with the offensive line, really like securing that unit and bolstering that unit, putting an emphasis on it. The Deontay Johnson, I love. David Moore, for me, man, I'll be honest, I feel like this is more of he's very familiar with the terminology and the scheme that Canales is going to run. So you could bring in a veteran receiver that could come in and kind of be that voice on the field, voice in the room that can explain some of the things and know exactly how he wants to operate that system that he's going to put in place here. I don't necessarily see him as some sort of difference maker or impact addition to the team. But the thing that stands out the most to me now, because this graphic we've seen before, but that Jadeveon Clowney down there, that's a new addition, man. And it's a fairly big one. And I don't mean that just because of his size. He's a large human being. But, man, he brings a lot to the table. Jared, can you kind of touch on what this addition means for the Panthers defense?
You get an incredibly improved edge setting defense, essentially. You're getting one of the better run defending edge players in this league. And you look at that statistic on the left, tied for fourth in pass rush win rate.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean he's an elite pass rusher.
Sure.
But what he did in Mike McDonald's defense last season showed someone that has been looking to finally unleash a little bit of that pass rush skill set.
Right.
And I look at Clowney and I see a player that is going to bring a veteran presence on a young defense along with great run edge setting ability and a decent pass rush skill set overall. This is a player that I'm really excited about for the Panthers.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty important to note too that the 2 years for $20 million has incentives up to $24 million. But that 2 years, man, I mean, we're going to have him here for a couple of years. So he's not just like, this isn't one of those win now moves necessarily just because he's a veteran player that's coming on for the defense. It's not necessarily an indication of, hey, look, we're not in a rebuild. We're actually trying to win. But it is saying what's the hurt in being competitive, right? And bringing in guys that can play, and maybe they add something to the team for 2 years. Maybe we use a high pick next year on an edge rusher if we don't this year. If we allocate to the wide receivers or something like that, or the offensive line through the draft, if we grab a young guy next year, Clowney will be there, right? And he can help with that transition into the league, kind of get them acclimated into that next level. Alex, I want to ask you, because you're a very humble person, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm not going to put you on the spot too much here. But you alluded a couple of times, I can't remember if you actually said it or not, I think you did, that there was another big move coming, right? Is this the big move, or do you think that this was a solid move that could possibly be coupled with another to make the big move?
No, I think this is the move. What I think was happening is that we were holding Cap and checking in on some trades for wide receivers, and I feel like that they probably just moved on from that, and now knowing that they're allocating those funds in a different way. So I think that's what got us over the line for Jadeveon Clowney. And honestly, I don't know if anybody, if you guys saw him talk when he went to go to get his number today. The dude just seems like he's grown up. It feels like he was kind of like had a little bit of ego. I don't know, but like he just seems like an adult now. And I feel like not only is he going to bring a pass rushing presence, but just a vet presence. It feels like it's a very, very, very strong pickup for the Panthers. But yes, I think this is the move. I think Gilmore is probably coming too, but I think people are kind of overvaluing Gilmore a little bit compared to Clowney. But I do like Gilmore, but I don't think Gilmore is a big move. I think the Jadeveon signing is
you're just not a Gilmore girl. That's okay, man. I understand. Jared, do you want to talk about Gilmore a little bit? Because, I was a little bit late getting on here to record this, but you kind of filled me in on something that apparently was said in the comments from Jadeveon Clowney about Gilmore and maybe his interest in coming here to Carolina.
Yeah, so Joe Person tweeted out from the Clowney press conference, which wasn't available for the public, but Clowney has said that Gilmore has interest in wanting to come back to Carolina. He's actually talked to the Panthers about Gilmore about Gilmore himself coming back to Carolina to be at least the number 2 corner on this team. I think when you look at Gilmore and especially the prospects of him being on this team, you're getting another veteran that can really establish veteran defensive back for this secondary.
Yeah.
And I look at Gilmore and I'm like, he's 33 years old. That skill set might be declining some, but we won't know until we see it on the field.
Sure.
But is he still going to be a quality starter for this defense? Absolutely. And if he can bring the same skill set he brought this past season for the Cowboys, that's a huge plus for this defense.
Right.
And that is an easy upgrade over what Dante Jackson was, in my opinion.
And, Joe Person put out a piece this morning, too, answering some questions. And in one of it I read, he was talking about adding a cornerback. A reader asked about adding another cornerback to the room. Are we still missing a cornerback, too? And Joe made the point of saying that Dan Morgan is more bullish on Dane Jackson, though, than I think most people are. He kind of pounded the table for him in Buffalo, so he's very familiar with his game. I think that maybe they anticipate him taking a step in Evero's system as maybe as a zone corner a little bit more. That maybe they are anticipating him having a bigger role and a bigger impact here. That Gilmore may not have to come in and be the answer necessarily. He can just be a part of the equation and help and allow for a little bit more versatility in that secondary, right? Because if you can move Dane Jackson around a little bit, if you can kind of incorporate a guy like Troy Hill into different areas. Now, Troy Hill's a nickel, but if you can use him in different ways because of the fact that you have Gilmore who can line up outside on the boundary with J.C. Horn, or if J.C. Horn misses time, right? You slide Gilmore over there. No, I know. It's crazy thought. I'm just saying, like, if it were to come to fruition where we needed somebody to slide over to that boundary position, I would feel more comfortable with Gilmore over there manning that position than I would necessarily counting on Dane Jackson to do that. All right. So look, I think we've set this up pretty solid, right? We know who we have. We know what we're looking at. Let's get into a mock draft. Let me pull up the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator. All right. I know. I really need to get like a good mock drafts. What would even be the noise that I would use for that? You know what I mean? Like maybe a cowbell.
That's kind of weird, but
it's like right before Goodell is like right at the podium making the announcements. The da 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 da.
That's it, man. That's the noise. Yeah.
I wish we could do that, but I'm worried about copyright stuff.
Yeah. They watch our podcast like a hawk. I don't want them to come and take us.
I mean, what I just did probably will get DMCA.
Get
DMAX just for doing that.
Oh, that's great.
All right, cowbell it is. More cowbell.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I've got a fever. All right, so we'll do a 7-round draft here. Carolina Panthers start this thing off. Man, the craziest thing is sometimes when I watch this thing and I see like Joe Alt go first or whatever, and I'm just like, I feel like I need to restart this, but it'll work.
Oh man!
Out. All right.
Ooh, I wouldn't. I just saw a ton of receivers just go off the board late.
I can see Xavier. I can see Ladd. I wouldn't do this trade. What do you guys think?
No.
Oh, I'm not moving down to 60, even though we have 39. 60 is just too far down. I am open to trades, and real quick before we get into it. Person also had in that article that somebody asked, would we have any interest in moving up into the latter part of the first round? And he said, no, I don't see that happening because of the rebuild that we're in, even if they don't call it that. He said, but I would not be surprised, or I think it's more realistic to trade back in the second round. And he actually said that he would be surprised if Dan Morgan doesn't trade back in the second round. That was an interesting little nugget, I thought, because the wording there is, he almost anticipates that being a strategy for this team. I don't have a problem with that as long as it's moving from like 33 to 44 or 45.
Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah.
Because you still got 39. I want to early in the second round.
I'll also say this: the Panthers could see 33 as their as a first round pick, essentially.
100%. Yes.
And they may not want to move off that, but they may want to trade back from 39.
Agreed.
And I put this out the other day, just kind of like wanted to see like which types of trade downs the Panthers could do, seeing what fans thought. Like, do you like option A or do you like option B?
Yeah.
And I did more specifically pick 39 because I think you're going to get more value there than 33. Yep. And I think Carolina's going to value 33 more. And I just don't see them moving out 33.
No. And I think the only way they move out of 33 is if a quarterback slides into round 2 that a team is really high on. That 33 is going to garner a little bit more of a return, in my opinion, especially if it is for a high positional value like a quarterback or a receiver. I have a hard time seeing. Yeah, Michael Penix. Yep. I highly doubt that you see J.J. McCarthy last into the second round at this point with all of the hype that he has going on around him. And wide receiver wise, I would feel a little bit icky if they traded out of a terrific wide receiver prospect so that someone else could take him. That just seems a little bit weird.
Yeah, it's going to depend on when the run and receivers go. Like if the run and receivers happens in the 20s, because I think there's going to be a run. Because
and look,
go ahead.
This is a great example of what you're talking about, Alex.
Yeah.
Is it right here? You got Brian Thomas Jr. goes at 17, and that kind of starts this domino effect, right? Keon goes at 22. Adonai Mitchell goes at 26. Adonai Mitchell goes at 26. Ladd McConkey at 30, and Xavier Worthy at 32. So, I mean, that's a lot of premier wide receiver prospects that go right there in front of us. There's nothing we can do about that. And that's a realistic possibility in this draft, I think. So we have to kind of prepare ourselves as fans that it may not be that we're not trying to get some of these guys that we like a lot, right? Like everybody loves Adonai Mitchell. I get it, man. He's a terrific prospect. But if we all like him so much, you think NFL teams don't? Like they see the same thing with him, right? They see that tantalizing upside that he brings. So I think that we've got to prepare ourselves for not having all of those options. But what it does is if you see that run that happens, it leaves players like Johnny Newton, Cooper DeJean sitting there that are available that I wouldn't have necessarily thought would be, right? So, Jared, my question for you is when you look at this, do you go best player available and take one of these guys that you like a lot, right? Like you know that they can bring something.
I think the thing I'm kind of hung up about is how much what receivers do they value? What type of receivers? So if you go look at the current receivers available, maybe 39 might be, or not 39, maybe 33 might be too early for a receiver.
Any of these guys? Yeah.
But there is a name, and I think you like this name, Ricky. Jalen Polk potentially as a candidate at 33. I don't think it's a terrible idea to do so, but I get the sense the NFL might be lower on him.
Sure.
But that's just a total guess speculation thing.
Right.
they could. I think the Panthers have definitely shown interest in Xavier Legette, who has been a topic of sorts in terms of my timeline. Sure. But I look at Legette, what he offers, you see some of the strengths there, you see some of the weaknesses as well if you scroll down a little bit. This is a player I do like overall. And I have him as my receiver 10, but he's 2 points off for being a first-round grade, which just, again, goes to show you the depth and the deepness of this wide receiver class.
Sure.
You see on the slide here, the traits are there. Size, speed guy. He's a bully ball, truly.
Right. Yep.
Wins in run after catch situations, more so running away, but he won't make receivers miss like a Lad McConkey or an Xavier Worthy.
Sure.
He is a little bit raw, but I think I'm not a big fan of the Mingo and Legette comparisons. I think they're two totally different players overall, even if they may have some similarities. I don't see it there, but there are options there. Troy Franklin, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall, Jalen Polk. But you look at center, Zach
Frazier.
And
he's really appealing to me, man. I think Zach Frazier is just I don't want to say safe pick because I think that's really undermining how good he is too. Safe kind of makes it seem like there's just this floor, but there's not a ceiling, right? Yep. Like, hey, man, you're not going to miss on him necessarily, but it's not some sexy dynamic pick. I think that Zach Frazier is a sexy pick, man, to me, because that gives you this incredible interior offensive line for at least 2 to 3 years, right? Because we know that they have outs on the contracts for Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. But if everyone plays up to their potential, you're talking about through Bryce's entire rookie contract, he could have an incredible interior offensive line.
Yep.
And I like that appeal. But for the sake of this exercise, man, I have a really hard time passing up on like a Cooper DeJean or a Johnny Newton. Although, I don't know, man. I don't know. Alex, what do you think about any of this? Do you? I think it's early for these wide receiver prospects. Personally, I think that we could get any of these guys at 39, most likely. I'm not as high on Malachi Corley, so I wouldn't take him in the second round personally. Jalen Polk, obviously, I'm very high on, but I think that he's going to be there at 39. So, Alex, do you want to take a chance on a guy like Cooper DeJean, or do you want to go Zach Frazier, or Darius Robinson is also there at defensive end?
I think that when you show your hand, I think so. Say every other team knows we're taking wide receiver at 33 or 39, right? Every team. So there's about 4 guys left that I think are kind of studs and that everybody would want.
Yeah.
So if you know what the Panthers are doing at 39, everybody's trading up above the Panthers to get their guy, especially if there continues to be a run on receivers. I think you can see if the run starts in the first round, I think you can see the run happen really, really early. I think you just got to go. If there's only 4 guys left, I don't want to take that risk because you have to have a receiver at 33 or 39, in my opinion. So I would go receiver. No matter who it is, I would take a receiver. If the board plays like this, if it doesn't play like this, like if you're left with like 6 receivers, then you wait till 39. So
you would look at this list of receivers and you would say you would take Troy Franklin, Jalen Polk, or Xavier Legette. Let's just say that those are the 3 that I think probably fit the billing here, right? For 33. Yeah. You would take one of those 3 at 33 instead of even waiting until 39 to see if they're available and being able to cash in on like a Zach Frazier.
Because you have to have it. Like it's a must have out of this draft because you're not getting it anywhere else.
Okay. So then let's do this then. Which wide receiver can we all agree on at 33? And let's do it in a way of like the more realistic pick for the Panthers too, right?
Yeah.
Like what all of the signs that they have been putting out have been towards Xavier Legette.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion. Troy Franklin does make sense when they talk about wanting a guy that creates separation and makes plays. I don't know that they are going to view him as a better prospect than Xavier Legette necessarily because of the interest that they've shown in Xavier Legette. So is everybody on board with saying that maybe Legette here is the pick at 33?
I'll make the argument though that Johnny Newton and Cooper DeJean should be in the argument for this pick. More so just because, like, in my mind, where like it is on my board and how I view him, how I view Polk and Franklin. And also, if you look at all the prospects, if you could click on the all prospects, I look at the board, you see Johnny Newton, you see Cooper DeJean. Like, of course, guard is out of the question just because they have depth and starting talent there on this roster. Offensive tackle, like if a top tier tackle were available.
I like Sua Mataya a lot.
Sua Mataya, I've seen some preliminary viewings and I've been impressed, and especially with his size, his flexibility.
Panay Sewell's cousin, I believe.
Yep. That's a hell of a bloodline. Hell of a bloodline.
Yep.
Cornerback, maybe if they want to go corner early. TJ
Robinson is really interesting too, though. See, if I was going to go corner, though, if I was going to go defensive back, it's going to be Cooper. Like, I'm not taking any other defensive back over Cooper, and he can play corner or safety. It just depends on which team drafts him and how they want to utilize him. In my opinion,
I think if you're going to draft Cooper. And this is before, and this is also kind of, and I want to try to go with the scenario that Gilmore ends up signing with Carolina. It's kind of just in my mind that
I think that's
so. You already you re-signed Troy Hill, so you're hoping that Troy Hill continues to be your starting nickel, and then Dane Jackson's more of a perimeter corner. He doesn't have the flexibility, I think, to play at nickel.
Right.
So, and Cooper DeJean would make this defense better already. However, you don't have to force him to play safety. He is a cover 3 corner, and I think he fits Carolina's defense. At the same time, where are you going to put him in this defense, especially with the additions they've made at safety and also at corner, hypothetically, if they add Gilmore? So I think that would take DeJean off the board there, and I would seriously consider Johnny Newton just because of his talent alone. What he brings to the table, and I'm not too concerned about his injury.
It's the injury concerns that seem to have him falling down draft boards, right?
Yeah, and personally, to me, that doesn't concern me, just because of what he did while he was kind of ailing that injury throughout the season this past year. He was still a quality player, and Newton would make this defense better. He would be the future at 4-tech, 4-eye, 3-tech, 5-tech, 3-4 defensive end for Carolina. If I'm going pass rusher, though, like, I would probably go Adisa Isaac instead of Darius Robinson.
I like Robinson a lot for the versatility that he would bring to this defensive front, and the fact that you would have Clowney there right now, right, for the next 2 years. Man, imagine just being able to kind of move these guys around. The Darius Robinson, the Derek Brown, and Jadeveon Clowney with A'Shawn Robinson thrown into the mix. It just seems like one of those modern NFLs where what they're doing with defensive fronts, where you've got these guys that can all get after the quarterback, technically, right? Outside of A'Shawn Robinson, that's not necessarily his forte. But these other guys, man, they've got the size to set the edge. They're good run defenders. But they also have terrific pass rush abilities. Doesn't always mean that they get the fullest out of their abilities, but it exists, right? And when we see guys like Chris Jones, man, dominating from the versatility standpoint, right? They can line him up just about anywhere. I think that you could really bolster that defensive front with a guy like Darius Robinson. But we're at like 10 minutes on this pick, so we've got to figure out. We're on the clock, man. Someone's going to take somebody in front of us. So we're going to have to make a decision here. So,
I'd vote best player available.
Yeah, I'm cool playing that exercise just to see what happens. With wide receivers.
Okay. So, do we agree then that Xavier Legette is the most likely target?
I would have played not one receiver just because I want to see how it.
Oh, okay. You want to go somewhere else?
Yeah. I'm saying.
So do we go Johnny Newton?
I'm cool going Johnny Newton.
Johnny Newton's the best player on the board.
Yeah.
I would go. He would make this defense better. Absolutely.
Let's just do it and let's see what happens. 60, 133, and second. No thanks.
Nope. We're not trading with a division rival. No.
I will if they want to give me like 43, 65, and 75. But all right, so let's see who went. TJ Tampa went right after us. Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, it's felt perfect for us.
Yeah,
I mean,
Cooper, Kingsley Sumatai,
great spot.
Yep.
And Zach Frazier's still on the board too.
Zach Frazier's still there too. So now you get into this situation.
I would love to trade back now.
Right? Yeah.
I think you trade back. I would.
But we don't have an offer.
Yeah, the offers just weren't good though. The offers would have been like to 60 was the earliest that we could have got.
I would try to propose a trade. I think
so
Indy would be a nice destination to trade
Indy
back
at
with.
46. So let's see what we would have to offer Indy. Looking at it, we'll offer 39, 46.
Maybe 151 at a 4.
I see. I need more than that, I think.
Maybe 117 and a future 4th. That would kind of balance it out a little bit in my mind. Value-wise, maybe I think
let's see what
Indy would want that 3rd.
I don't think that they'll take it. Yeah.
No.
So what if you did Indy? What if you just did Indy at 46 and 117 for 39? No futures.
I don't think they're going to go for it. No.
Nope. All right. So look, maybe we're not able to trade back on this simulator, right? But maybe this is the scenario that Dan Morgan was talking about, or Joe Person was referring to, that he would be surprised if they didn't, right? Because there are still guys on this board that it's possible that somebody else covets, like Bo Nix, right? That's that quarterback prospect that I'm not a huge Bo Nix guy, but there are a lot of people that are. And he affords you that's a possibility of somebody who falls in love with a quarterback that says they need a quarterback. I don't know which team that would be though here.
Giants.
Maybe the Saints. I could see the Saints looking at a guy like Bo Nix and saying, look, Derek Carr is not our future for the next 5 years, right? Like, I'm not even sure that Derek Carr is their present, but they're stuck with him right now, right? But maybe
that's a touchy subject for Saints fans, for sure.
But maybe they look at Bo Nix and they say, hey, look, that's a developmental guy that if we have Derek Carr for this year, we bring Bo Nix in, we kind of develop him for a year. Possibly they're interested in it. I don't think that they're going to trade with us to go up and get him, though. They're not going to give us future assets to go up and get him, especially when there's not quarterback needy teams ahead of them that they're scared of going in front of them.
I'll say this: when we're working on proposing trade backs, we include a 3rd, or we get a 3rd in return.
Yeah.
I think if a team's like, we'll just see how it turns out.
Right.
The simulator, I'll admit, isn't terrific in terms of
trading,
having the correct value.
Right.
But I mean, it's a simulator. It's not going to be perfect. So,
absolutely. Yeah. It's just an exercise tool.
I feel like either the Saints or the Giants would be nice trade back options.
Yep.
Or trade back teams to go with.
For this one, though, we're not going to trade back. We're going to take somebody here.
Yeah, you got to have a receiver.
You got to take somebody here. And I think you got to go receiver, right? Like, I think that there's going to be plenty of prospects at 65 that I would probably be comfortable with. Yeah. But I don't know that that's necessarily the attack that A, the Panthers would go with, or B, the entire fan base here would have any kind of
Bank of America would,
ground. If we went Johnny Newton and Zach Frazier with our first 2 picks, I think it would just cause a shitstorm. Epic proportions. You know what I mean?
So personally, I'm split on Polk and Leggett here at 39.
Not Trey Franklin, huh?
I'm not.
No. Not for our need.
I just have concerns with Franklin in terms of catch technique, along with consistency on all 3 levels of the field. Sure. Like, sure, he's a flashy player. He offers great speed and acceleration once he gets to the deep third. But I look at Leggett and Polk as better prospects, especially on my board and especially in my evaluations.
I do too. Yep.
Franklin is my receiver 11, but I like the skill sets of Polk and Leggett better.
Yep. I think. Go for it.
We're going Polk. Why did we go to Washington? Like, I think we might be looking towards Polk a little bit.
And look, I love that. And what they brought out today with the Joe Person also had this in his piece where he was talking about Canales seems to have an emphasis on they're getting receivers that know they can play all of the positions, right? They know all of the positions well. can create separation and that can make plays. And they said there was an emphasis on speed. And the speed is one place that I would say is not necessarily Jalen Polk's forte. That doesn't mean he's slow. It just means he doesn't have the Troy Franklin long speed, right? He doesn't have the Xavier Legette speed, I don't think. But when you talk about making plays in positional versatility, I do think that is 100% more of Jalen Polk's area of expertise than either of those guys.
He's very versatile.
Very alignment versatile. And not just versatile, though, man. That's one of the things that I've been so big on with Polk. It's not just that he can play all of the positions, right? He can win from every single one of them. He has shown the ability, man. And I think he's only going to get much better in the route running. Like, I really do truly believe that with NFL coaching, you're going to see that Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. And the Devontae Adams, man, is a really lofty thing that I floated out there, but that's just because of their numbers coming out of college, their usage, their measurements, and the knocks on them. And the development, right? Because the knocks on Devontae Adams are very, very similar to the knocks that people are putting on Jalen Polk right now.
You look at the scouting reports that were put out there on Adams back then. I remember reading Adams reports, and I'm like, holy cow, there's some similarities here with Polk too. And Panther fans, I think to Ricky and I think they would be like, you guys are just homers, fanboy, or homers of Polk, but we're not. We are more believers in the skill set and the versatility aspect that Polk brings, along with the ability, with the growth aspects from both a route running and separation aspect of his game. I think he's already a solid separator overall who can get better. And he brings that to the table. Wow. And also Legette, same thing. He has room to grow.
He does. But Legette is a guy, though, that they have had eyes on, man. Like, and I don't want to just completely blow over that here, because, I mean, they are really, like, focused on Legette. They keep sending out signals about Legette that he's their guy that they really like. You know, you just get the feel that that's not all smoke without fire. It seems like there is legitimacy behind that.
And people talk, listen, man. People talk, listen. They went to Washington,
right? They went to Washington, but there was also like 20 people at the South Carolina Pro Day, right?
Yeah, so that's right around the corner.
Right down the road.
It's right next door. Right.
To see Jalen Polk.
It's right down I-77.
They could have just been down there getting some John G's barbecue and they figured to stop by.
That is true.
It's probably going to be Legette, but it's eyebrow raised when they went to Washington.
I want to go with a scenario where Polk is the pick. I like the idea.
To see him.
Hey, and I think you don't have to sell me on Jalen Polk. I'm super stoked on that because every single draft that we've done so far, I have not picked Jalen Polk. So I am a happy camper. I just don't know how the reaction is going to be.
I applaud you for that, honestly.
Yeah, man. I've tried to be really unbiased and like realistic about it, but I would have taken Jalen Polk every single time at 33 if it was up to me.
I would accept this trade
here. What do you would accept this trade?
I would. I don't know about you guys.
Future third.
Yeah, because like
I would take this
one.
Ooh,
yeah.
I would take 74.
Okay, I'll take that one.
You get an additional top 150.
So let me explain real quick why, like, you take 240. Like, there's not a lot of interest in wanting to have a selection in the 6th or 7th round,
right?
Because there's not a ton of depth overall in this draft once you get into those later rounds,
like top 150, and then
and a lot of that has to do with players going back to college for another year. NIL has a factor in that. This is the new era of not only college football, but the NFL draft too, because this NIL has a great effect on the NFL draft. There was a possibility, a slight one, that Marvin Harrison Jr. could have gone back for another year at Ohio State.
Now, here's
this coming season.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Is Isaac's still there?
Isaac is still there. Ben Sinnott is still there. Peyton Wilson is still there. Braden Fisk.
We already went
Hedrick Van Pran. Yeah. But look, if we accepted, okay. So here's the thing, though. If you accept, I'm not going to take this one because I think the other one is better. We get a better haul for the next one. So I'll reject this one. But 74 and 109, you're moving 9 picks back, and you accrue another top 150. I understand how much we like Isaac. And I'm huge on Sinnott. Peyton Wilson.
Tough.
It's tough, man. But
Jonathan Brooks too.
But look, but that's the thing, though, man. There's enough prospects still there.
Yeah, we should just do it. I mean,
I think we do.
I'm in on trading back there, especially with that offer.
Let's do it.
You don't have to pick
trade back, and then let's see what happened here. Let's see what happened.
You guys,
I just went Junior Colson, Michael Hall, Christian Mahogany is one of my guys, Chris Jenkins, and Roman Wilson. So look, Ben Sinnott, Peyton Wilson, Jonathan Brooks, Braden Fisk, and Cedric Van Pran are all still there. Plus Ricky Pearsall. I know a lot of people are very high on Ricky Pearsall.
Nick Mellon.
There's a lot of people still there.
Why they honestly, that might be why they went to the
There's so much
looking
value
at this now. Look at this too. Now we have 74, 101, and 109 plus back-to-back 141 and 142. I love that positioning, to be completely honest. I think we're going to end up really filling in these spots with some really good players. So let's try to expedite this because we have been taking about 10-ish minutes on each pick. Looking at this scenario, we have got Johnny Newton, Jalen Polk. I love Ben Sinnott. I, honest to God, my comp for him, and I was so glad to hear Ian Cummings say the same thing. My comp for him was Sam Laporta, and it felt lazy and it felt too recent because of Sam being 1 year in. But their usage in college and everything about them, it's so similar, man. I would absolutely love getting Ben Sinnott here, to be completely honest. I think that he opens up another dynamic of the offense. I think that he can stay in as a blocker. You talk about solidifying the offensive line. He is very capable of doing that. You could use him in an H-back role. You could keep him in line. You could put him in the slot. I mean, there are so many ways that Ben Sinnott can attack and improve your offense. Peyton Wilson is also intriguing, but I think that you can find a linebacker, or maybe you don't even emphasize that, but I think you could probably find another linebacker. I like the kid out of Texas a lot, Jalen Ford. I think that you can get him in one of those next picks. So for me, if you don't get Ben Sinnott and you look at the tight ends that are available, you're down to Cade Stover, Theo Johnson. I like both of them, but they are a tier below Ben Sinnott to me, a significant tier below.
And Sinnott, you see the flashes on tape. I want to use the Texas game as an example. He showed blocking versatility in terms of being able to be a split blocker in inside zone. He'll work to the second level and he'll get hands on. Like he shows some technician, but they're like Sam Laporta, he does need to improve his play strength.
Yes.
But you see the effort and the willingness and the urgency with Sinnott. And I finished his eval. He has an early second round grade, not early second round grade, late second round grade, but great player. I liked Laporta coming out. I also like Sinnott. Their skill sets are so similar, like you were saying. I want to go Sinnott here.
Let's go Sinnott here. Let's do it.
Improve the tie-in position.
It's a premier position. I mean, look at the last four teams that were in the NFL
Great point.
Playoffs. You got Laporta, Kittle, Andrews, and Kelsey. Like,
great.
I tell you all you need to know. You need a good tight end.
We're going with it because I think, look, man, like difference maker. We've put an emphasis on the offense. We've put an emphasis on surrounding Bryce with the pieces that he needs to be successful, right? This is intriguing, but honestly, I like the picks that we have at this point.
I think there's also there's not enough depth.
And there's a lot of players here I like the value of.
Yep. All right. So looking at it now, let's see who went right after us, just out of curiosity. I always like to do that. Ricky Pearsall, Cedric Van Pran. Yeah. Okay. So these make a lot of sense because these are guys that we would honestly probably be looking at. Roger Rosengarten is another guy that when we went to Washington for their pro day, I would not be surprised if he was one of the guys we were looking at. We took our offensive line coach with us. I think that he's a guy that a lot of NFL offices are really high on as well. He's got some really good aspects to his game that are a little bit overshadowed by how good Troy Fatanu was. Okay. So now Blake Corum is there. Dominic Puny. Now Dominic Puny is a guy that really lit up the Senior Bowl and has alignment versatility as well, and may actually be best suited as a center. So I could see them being a little bit intrigued by him. Mike Sandstrom. I do too, man. I love him. Yep. And he's versatile. He can do a lot of different things. Jaden Hicks. I know that we just signed a safety in Jordan Fuller, but man, this kid right here could be the safety of the future for us. I like him a lot. Audric Estime. Is it Estime or is it Estime?
Estime.
Estime. I like him too, man. And you talk about needing a physical running back. This is your guy, man. I mean, this dude is a brick house.
And especially with Hubbard, final year of his contract.
Yep. Maybe you have your solution right there.
Running back.
Right.
We're drafting a running back somewhere.
I think we are too. So let's look at the running backs available then. You still got Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, and Jalen Wright, who all are very good prospects. And we have picked 109. So if there's another position here.
Yeah, I'd wait.
I want to go edge personally.
Yeah, I'd wait.
I love Austin Booker.
You like Austin Booker?
Austin Booker adds he has a pass rush arsenal, but also he brings explosiveness and speed, which I think can counterbalance the run defenders we have at edge.
Okay.
They Panthers added Chason, who I think he might make the 53. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to keep DJ Johnson on the 53 this upcoming season. It'll just depend on how the draft goes. But
so let's go Booker then.
I like Booker because
they brought in Booker for a top 30 bid.
Top 30. That's right.
They're interested in.
And he's one of those guys that I think could be a gem in this class or coming out where he will bring good rotational value early on and then become a potential impact starter later into his rookie contract.
The right after is Dominic Puny goes right there. So that makes a lot of sense, man. I think that he's going to be a coveted guy. I'm not even sure that he lasts until round 4, to be completely honest.
Bo
still goes right there. Bo Limmer was the guy. But you know what? That's okay, man, because I really like Tanner Bortolini too. So if we want to shore up that center position, I think that he's going to be around in this area too.
And then
Jaden Hicks. Yep, and then 3 safeties. But that's okay though, because for us and for this exercise, we look at this. The running backs are all still there. You could also look at this and say, "Hey, look at Malik Washington sitting there."
Yeah, we brought him in. I would go Malik Washington.
Javon Baker.
I like Javon Baker, but with Jalen Polk, I don't want to
same skill set. Yeah,
it's a similar skill set, and I think that Javon is a little bit less dynamic and athletic from like a explosiveness standpoint than Jalen Polk is. So I don't know how you would have Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Jalen Polk, and essentially Jonathan Mingo, right, as your starting 4. I don't know where Javon Baker kind of slides in there and finds his fitting. I think that a guy like Malik Washington offers a different dynamic and also a punt return dynamic, right? I think that he could eventually take over those kinds of duties.
Yeah, we brought him in.
I like Malik there.
But in some of the simulations I've done recently, Bortolini may not be there at 141.
Yep.
And that it might be a reach to take Bortolini here, but that's just off the simulator.
Jalen Ford is also still there. I like Jalen Ford a lot too.
I don't know if you've seen or if you've watched Matt Lee or any
Kyrie Jackson, man. That's another guy that I'm real high on.
Cam Hart. I like Cam Hart too.
Now that's tough.
Yeah.
Kyrie, these corners aren't going to be there.
And then you run the risk of not having the center.
I think though, for my sake, if I was looking at this, I think that Kyrie Jackson and Cam Hart both are prospects that I would feel better about their trajectory as like a impact player down the line, right, at a really big position. And I think that Gilmore, even in this situation, we're assuming we get Gilmore. We've already talked about his skills kind of diminishing a tiny bit right now. That should probably, you would think, would be a linear thing where that continues. So if he's a 1 or a 2 year rental, if you get a guy like Kyrie Jackson and let him develop, you might have an answer to that question of what do you do with JC Horn if he doesn't stay healthy next year? Maybe if you got a Kyrie Jackson, you feel a little bit better about taking that risk of letting JC go if he's not healthy.
And then I'll also mention this: you're not going to fill every need in the draft. You're not going to be able. You're going to have holes going into the season, and this happens with every team. It doesn't matter if it's the 49ers. It doesn't matter if it's the Chiefs. Like the teams that were just in the Super Bowl, like. Every team's going to have a hole, even after the offseason.
Yep.
And the Panthers are going to be in the same situation. They're going to have there's going to be concerns at corner more likely next year, especially if Gilmore returns.
Right.
But he's getting older. So
we're also in the 4th round. So we're not looking for an immediate impact guy here necessarily. We're looking for a guy that has a future potential, right? And somebody that if you can develop maybe there's a value there in a guy like a Kyrie Jackson or a Cam.
Johnny Dixon and Daquan Hardy.
Yeah.
In that range too.
These next 3 picks, I think we're going. There's going to be one receiver and one. I think we walk out of this draft with 2 receivers and a running back. Just throwing that out there. We got 3 more picks.
Okay.
We only have 5 receivers on the roster now.
No, we got Amir Smith-Marset, David. We got like 7 on the roster. Amir Smith-Marset, David Moore, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Mingo.
I think that's it. That's 5.
Is that it?
And then we draft 1, and then
we draft 1 or 2.
I think we walk away with 2 receivers somehow. But
okay.
I don't mind what we do. I'm just saying I think we walk away this draft with 2 receivers and a running back.
Yeah,
so for me, I'm going to look at it and say I'm between personally Malik Washington or Kyrie Jackson. I think that those are the 2 picks that I really like the most there. And I know that there's other options, but for the sake of this exercise of like limiting how much we keep going through all these prospects,
right?
Those are the 2 that I would like to decide between.
Yeah, I mean, we brought in Malik Washington for top 30 visit, but I think honestly, we take away another receiver, a running back, and a corner. So how are we?
I know, right? So it's about the sequencing of all of that. Running back, I think at 141 and 142, I think that's where you get a running back because I think a guy like Isaac Guerrero,
especially
Tyrone Tracy Jr., George Jelani, I think all of those guys could be there. You know what I mean? And I like them, and I think that they are more comparable to the rest of the prospects in line with them than this cornerback room. If you don't get one of these 2 guys, I think there's a significant drop off, especially if you're talking about a potential boundary corner. I don't think we need another nickel. I think with Troy Franklin, with Jamie Robinson, I just don't think you necessarily need to do that right now. I do think that the boundary position is one that you can really shore up with at least potential.
I'll go Kyrie Jackson. That's my pick.
Let's go Kyrie. Yep. Let's go Kyrie and just see what happens at 141 and 142. I think that we might.
Bortolini might be available.
Bortolini is there, and so is Estime, and so is Ray Davis.
Is Jalen Wright available?
Nope.
No, he went.
But so
I think we took Wright. Did we take Wright in our last mock?
Jalen?
Yeah.
We might have. Yeah, I think so because we added speed to it.
Let's be a little versatile here in terms of picking the running back.
Yeah,
I would go Estime and Brendan Rice would be my last 2 picks.
Go Brendan
Rice. But it seems like a very popular choice too.
Brendan Rice is interesting because I again, it's one of those like, are you making a log jam there? You know, like I like Brendan Rice, but are you creating a positional log jam there with who you have on the roster? Maybe not, because I do think that he's a bigger body receiver. That's tough. That's really tough. I do like Brendan Rice though. Look, these picks are back to back.
So we can go ahead and decide on who our
let's go Bortolini because we're gonna need we don't know what Corbett's gonna do.
I really like the idea of getting Bortolini, but then that means we have to pick between a running back and a receiver.
Yeah, I go Bortolini.
And I will say this: Panthers could likely lean on David Moore a little bit.
They signed him very early,
and also I think there's going to be a little bit more development with Mingo. I think in this scenario, there's a decent chance the Panthers may not draft 2 receivers in this draft.
I agree.
And I think Panther fans need to kind of understand, like, it's not a requirement that they have to draft a receiver twice in this. They don't have to double dip.
I think if like a really great prospect were to fall to 65, right? Like if they go receiver at 33 or 39, and then one of these really good players that they're high on ends up being there at 65, you may see this like not a luxury pick necessarily, but you may see why the hell would we pass up on bringing in receivers, right? Yeah. But I don't think that there's an emphasis like there used to be. When you get a Deontay Johnson and David Moore signed, I don't think that there is this concerted effort that you have to bring in 2 receivers. So now if we look at it, we want to go running back then, right? Because I think we all are in agreement that we're going to take a running back. Yeah. Look at this draft, first of all, man. I love this.
I'll be stoked with this.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely stoked.
So what do we like here then? Do we like Estime? I'm huge on Ray Davis. I think Ray Davis is a 3-down back. I think that he's a terrific receiving option out of the backfield, as well as Marshawn Lloyd is. Marshawn Lloyd has his concerns with ball security and fumbling the ball. And we know that Dave Canales puts a huge emphasis on protecting the ball.
So I don't think Lloyd would be on
I doubt
Panthers' radar.
Right.
He might be off their board entirely if they're like, we need to emphasize ball security, because you're not going to have every team's not going to have 300 prospects on their board. It's
Correct.
likely 100. Some teams have at most 150 to 175 prospects.
Mm-hmm. So who do we like then at running back? Alex, do you have one that you like at running back?
The only one, honestly, that I really know is Estime. Yeah. So that's why I was.
I like Estime.
Yeah,
I don't really know Ray Davis.
Estime's play speed, I think, is better than his 40 time for sure. He in a similar aspect, it's like Keon Coleman with his 40-yard dash compared to his play speed. Mm-hmm. Just a faster player overall on the field than you're going to see on a 40-yard dash. Mm-hmm. Estime does need somewhat of a runway, but once he does have that runway, he'll get chunk yards and he can run away from defenses if need be.
We might be able to create that runway for him now with Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis sitting there in the middle, right?
Yep. And I think Estime being a physical back too, and also having some athleticism to his game, like there were some hurdles on tape that I was like, "Ooh, that definitely caught my eye."
Is there a huge game, for example? Is there a huge gap for you between Audric Estime and Isaac Guerendo?
A little bit. I haven't exactly dove into Guerendo entirely, but preliminary wise, like I see Estime as the better back just because of his production, his overall body of work, and also his overall talent level.
I like it. Let's go.
I like Estime here.
Let's go Estime.
Look at us.
And then we'll let this thing do its thing for the rest of the draft. Man,
see, I feel like we could have been a better front office than Scott Fitter.
100%. Are you kidding me? Like, I think that if you'd have put the laser eyes on us and we did something like this, the laser eyes wouldn't have had such a negative connotation.
Now let me ask you this. Would we be better decision makers than Dave Gettleman or Scott Fitter?
I think both. I think this draft right here is better. Like from a whole product, right? Like looking at this from a whole product, not just the first or second round picks, right? I like what we did here. There was a comprehensive way that we built this draft. These two playmakers on offense, I think, are absolute knockout picks. I think that that's going to really shore up that offense for immediate contributions and potential to develop into significant players in the NFL.
Yep.
Johnny Newton, man, is one of those, hey, if he falls into your lap, you better take him. Like, that's a great player. Austin Booker, ton of potential. And at pick 101, isn't that what you're looking for? You're not necessarily looking for someone that comes in and gives you, steady production in their first year. You're looking for a guy that could potentially develop into a difference maker or at least develop into a role player.
101 would have been like the perfect spot for DJ Johnson.
Correct. Right. Exactly. When you start looking at these values, look, Jalen Polk is at 39, right? That's where we took Jonathan Mingo last year. The difference between Jalen Polk and Jonathan Mingo is their NFL readiness. Jalen Polk knows how to play every alignment of the wide receiver position, and he has the production and the usage to back up, knowing that he can come in and contribute right away.
Yep.
Jonathan Mingo was much more of the athletic tools type of prospect that you thought, man, with a little bit of development, he could turn into something. You take him at 74 or 101, right? Like 39 makes sense for a guy like Jalen Polk. I think this is great, man. I'm a huge fan of this draft.
This is one. Even like of all the drafts, all the simulations I've shared online, even the mock drafts I've done for Cat Crave, like that was one of the better mocks.
That's a great one, man.
And I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to be really bold with my next Panthers mock draft. Maybe provide a scenario that people haven't really fully considered. But I don't want to dive into too many details since I got a while. And so basically, I do one bi-weekly because our editor does his mock draft. I do mine. I also do weekly mock drafts now for Rigo's Rag with the Washington Commanders. So kind of getting an understanding of what the Commanders are going to do this upcoming draft, providing scenarios for them. And I'll say this for Panther fans. There's going to be some sense of urgency, but I wouldn't be too concerned about you have to get this player, you have to get that player.
Yep.
Like because the Panthers board is going to be different from all of our boards, all of our own personal boards.
Right.
What the Panthers prefer and what they view or what type of player they like is going to be different from what we feel and what we think. They may think completely different of Polk than the two of us, Ricky.
Right.
They may love Xavier Legette and may want to be like, he's the guy at 33. We're hoping he's there. And there's a decent chance he's there.
Yep.
But there's so much unknown when it comes to pick 33 and pick 39 because we're picking first pick of the second round.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of anxiety that first round, I think, for Panther fans because we don't know who's going to be there. And then until we know who's there, then there's going to be more anxiety leading up to the start of day 2 on the 26th. So I'm just going to be more patient, be like, all right, let's see who's going to be available.
That's right.
And if they don't take the guy some fans wanted, that's okay.
All good. Yep.
It's all good.
Things happen,
because
man.
you're improving your team. That's all that matters.
And you're not going to get every draft prospect that we fall in love with. It just doesn't happen. We have a certain amount of draft picks. They're going to do the best they can with it. But I will tell you this. If they come away with the draft like we just did, I'm a happy camper.
Dan, there will be more laser-eyed Dan Morgan.
You betcha, or maybe some chef hats, man. Maybe we get Chef Dan, and he starts really going at it, right?
I will emphasize that I think there needs to be more chef hats than there are laser eyes for Dan Morgan.
I'm on board with that,
and especially we need more wide-eyed Dan Morgan chef hats.
Ricky, I got to bounce for fast. I got to get somewhere.
No worries.
I didn't mean to interrupt. But
no, you're good. We're about to wrap up. Yep.
Yeah, it's really fun, guys. I will talk to you guys later. Sorry, I got.
You're good, man.
Alex, appreciate it.
See you, man. All right, so Jared, let's wrap this up too, man. You touched on it a little bit with the Rigo's Rag that you're working over there right now. And obviously, I opened it up by saying that you're my colleague over at Cat Crave. So tell everybody where they can find your stuff, social handle, and all that kind of stuff.
So you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at JRod NFL Draft. You can also find me at that same handle over on Threads. I'm trying to be a little bit more active on Threads, which is some consider as maybe a replacement to X, but we'll just have to wait and see. But you'll see my content over on those platforms. I'm not super active on Instagram or TikTok. I don't really have accounts dedicated to the work I do. But you can also find my work at Cat Crave at Rigo's Rag. And also I have a Substack that I will be starting to use up this upcoming month. As the draft is starting to ramp up, I'll have my big board and my final full first round NFL mock draft available then over on my Substack at the Final Say. So make sure you guys check that out. Subscribe, free subscription. I'm not going to force you guys to pay anything like that. I'm too kind to be wanting all y'all's money. I don't want to force y'all to pay anything. So free subscription, no cost, nothing like that. You guys can check me out over there at the Final Say. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this draft process and all the conversations, the debates. It's going to be an interesting, we got 27 days left until the draft.
Yep.
Exciting times, man. Fun
4 weeks that we got ahead of us, man. Hey, Jared, I appreciate you coming on, man. Jared Feinberg, baby. Impressive as always, dude. I'll talk to you later, man.
Alrighty, man. See ya.
Man, that was fun. And I tell you, I feel really good about the way that we came out of this one. I think that we filled some crucial needs and some areas to really improve the team. But I also just think that we were smart about it. And I hope that the Panthers take a very similar approach where you see a guy like Johnny Newton, if he falls to you, don't overthink it. The best way to build a team is by getting the best players on the team. And I think that that's the strategy that we went with today as the general managers of the Carolina Panthers. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Until next time, I am Ricky Bowbody. I guess I'm also just Rick Brain. I don't know. We'll find out. Everybody have a good day.